Hi guys and girls, I'm Obsidian and welcome to Everspace on the Nintendo Switch. Now, as you can see, I'm in Sector 2, so I have been playing through this for a few minutes now, but I will cover the game, what it's all about, what you can expect to it, and whether or not you're going to enjoy this, not to mention how it compares to other versions of the game. Now, Everspace has been out for a long while on the PC, quite a few years in fact, and it's one of my favourite space combat shooters on the game. You see me playing it a lot. If you got much interest in it at all, any interest whatsoever, it's well worth having a look at some of my other videos so you can get a feel for what the game's all about. But if you particularly and specifically want to see what it's like on the Switch, then this is a video for you. So, Rockfish Games were kind enough to send me over a copy of the game on the Switch. I did request a copy and they sent it over so I could have a look at it and see what it's all about. Space combat on the go. That's what I'm really after here. Of course, you can play it on the TV as you can with any other console, but really the Switch, one of the main functions of the Switch, at least for me, is the fact that it's a handheld console and there's not really many space games out on it right now. So here we are with the Switch version. I've actually got the console in TV mode here and I'm playing with a handheld controller, and that brings me on to the subject of controllers specifically. Stuttering there because I could see the missile coming towards me. Now, the problem I have with controllers here is the same problem I have with the PlayStation 4 version of the game. I don't enjoy the controller-based method on consoles. For me, it's all about mouse and keyboard when it comes to Everspace. And I really do struggle with the controller input. And that's not necessarily because I'm not a console person. I'm a big fan of PlayStation and... where's he gone? PlayStation and any other console games. I've been a console player for many years. And I'm not a bad shot when it comes to playing with a controller or a gamepad. What do you guys actually refer to them as? I've always called them console controllers. Some people prefer to call them gamepads. But yeah, all that said, I do struggle with the controllers on Everspace, and I'll tell you for why. There's a strange import method. At least personally, I find it strange. You can see my life support is actually down to 20%. I'll explain that in a moment. But on the subject of controllers, if I move left here, what will happen is you can see the rudder control actually accelerates up. So I'm pushing far to the left, as far as I can actually go. And it takes a few moments. Maybe it's barely perceptible, but you kind of build up your momentum as you actually turn. And then when you release the stick, you kind of don't stop on a dime. So say I want to aim for this... this target here. I'm going to do a full 180 or a 360 rather, or maybe even a 720, then come back and try and aim for that. Now, if this was an FPS, you could simply just stop on it. You stop dead on a beat, because when you release the control, the rudder control, the rudder action would actually stop. It doesn't do that on Everspace. Let's come around, and I've had to stop there, because it actually decelerates rather than stops on a dime. I know that's to give you a feel for the velocity of a ship. We've overshot that slightly. I know that's to give you a sense of velocity and motion, and it does pose significant problems, at least for me, in terms of how the game actually plays, and it means you overshoot and undershoot targets a lot. Now, we are slowly being asphyxiated here. What happened in Sector 1, I lost a lot of hull damage, module damage. My hull damage is right down there. You can see this on the top left, and down here you can see the life support system is actually damaged. So as you're playing through Everspace, you're flying through with a spaceship here, and we'll talk about more on the details of that as we progress through. But what happens as you take damage is that your ship will actually take damage to each individual module. Primarily, it will take damage to the hull. This can be repaired with nanobots. You've got the required resources over on the left. And I did mean right just now. I said up on the left, but I meant up on the right for the hull. The required resources are on the left. And as we go down, we can see the required resources to actually repair any of these other components or modules. Life support needs some nanobots, 2 of them, and it needs 8 units of gas. Now, I haven't got those, which means I can't repair the life support, which means I'm slowly running out of oxygen. I'm down to just a few percent, as we saw a moment ago. Inertia dampeners, also a thing that needed to be repaired. These basically control the movement of your ship, or affect the movement of your ship. So the motion I showed you just now will be slightly affected by this, not so much as to cause any, as to counteract rather, the problem that I was trying to recount there. So we're down to 6%. I'm going to keep flying and then we'll die, and you'll see what this is all about. One more thing before we die, actually. Let's have a look at the star map. But there's a star map here. This is Sector 2. You can see the little ship icon marking where I am. I'm in the first circle, right over there on the left. That's the first zone. When we complete this zone, we can then, if we've got enough time, we'll then jump through to the second zone. If we can do that. Or we die. 3% on our life support. Are we going to make it? It looks like it. So what will happen is we'll shoot through to the second zone. So yes, you got it. This is a roguelike game. We can choose our destination here. One of 2 pathways, which then branches if we go this way. Essentially giving us 3 options. And once we get to the end of the sector, there will be a jump gate, which we can use to get through to Sector 3. Now, if we die, rather when we die, what will happen is that we'll find ourselves back in the hangar again, right at the start of the game. Everything we've collected on this playthrough will be destroyed, will be lost, with the exception of the credits. We've got 2,368 credits.
Limited time to repair the life support system. Next time, take action before arriving at the inevitable conclusion.
Yes, we've died. So the credits that I was just mentioning, we can see them here. Oh, it's a bit higher than I thought. Did I say 2,968? Whatever I said, it is actually 2,968. And we can use these to purchase perks. Okay. Now, before we go and have a look at the perks, we can have a look at ships. We can unlock other ships. Ships actually require money to unlock. The Colonial Interceptor is the one that you start out with. It's a pretty good all-round ship. In fact, it's my favourite ship precisely because of that. The other ships have other options. The Colonial Scout is a light fighter class ship. Very, very fast, very, very swift, as it says there. It's a bit of a glass cannon. It can pack a punch, but it also explodes very, very easy. We can unlock that for 10,000 credits. Another ship is the Colonial Gunship. It's a bit of a beast. Nice. Very, very powerful ship. Yeah. Oh, I'm done. Come back to the main menu here. And the B button on the control rather than A. But we'll come back into the hangar again. So, yeah, we've got the Colonial Interceptor, the Colonial Scout, the Colonial Gunship, and the Colonial Sentinel. All give you different options, all give you different ways of actually playing the game. Now, I do prefer the Colonial Interceptor, and that's the one we're going to look at right here. We're going to go through and purchase some perks for this. Now, perks are split across 2 categories. You get perks for the ship and perks for the pilot. Okay, so perks for the pilot, these will carry across. If I buy these will carry across regardless of what ship I actually use. So we can buy some critical hit chance, increase our damage output, which is not a bad thing to go for your first playthrough. The other thing is to increase map. Now these will, remember the little circles we saw on the map? They're actually hollowed out circles. What will happen is we upgrade this, it will actually reveal more information as to what each zone actually contains. So you get a bit of an idea before you jump into it. We can upgrade our loot. This will give us a loot bonus, allowing us to get more credits. And then we've got our ship upgrades. Hull upgrades, energy upgrades. Energy is used for energy weapons as well as your booster, your thruster booster. We've got a few other different options as well now. I need to always go for hull hit point because it allows me to survive a bit longer. You can see I've got that up to level 1 already. And the cost of these progresses incrementally. Loot, the initial one costs 200. People are always telling me to increase my loot credit bonus. Not something I normally do, but I'm going to do this time because I'm always told to do it. So you can see it costs 200 for the first one. The second one is going to cost 300. What have we got here? Rare loot chance. Nope. Next one is going to cost 300, 500, 800. Going to keep going. I can't quite afford 1,200, unfortunately. What a shame. We're slightly short. What else have we got? Lucky jump chance. Increase the chance of jumping without fuel. So those are the jumps between the zones that we had a look at just now. A component damage chance. Nanobot efficiency. These are all good. Let's keep increasing the hit point. We've got another 600 to spend. Energy capacity. Let's go for that. And 168 credits left. We can't use that, so we're going to now continue onwards. We have got 3 difficulties. We got easy, normal, hard on the PC. I do usually like to use normal on the Switch because of the controllers and that. I'm not very good with it, and personally I don't think the control method is all that well implemented. I go with easy. So let's launch. Get to it. We can have a bit of a feel for what the game is all about now. Get a bit of a better idea. We'll be back to Sector 1 right at the start in Zone 1. Now each sector will look different. It does have its own unique style. In fact, each zone have its own style. Some of them are just black backgrounds or slight tinted blue backdrops, but sometimes you can get some wonderfully, beautifully coloured nebula. Now here's a plasma cloud. These are the resources that we can collect as we're playing. Someone's shooting at us. Who's shooting at us? Right, so we've got 2 weapons. We've got an energy weapon and a kinetic weapon or projectile weapon. The energy weapon we use to take down the shields. If we can target them. And the projectile weapon, excuse me, projectile weapon we use to take down the hull. And you can see my shield up on the top left is actually depleted. It will recharge. If I don't get hit, it will recharge. I'm going to keep flying. Oh, I've got shot. I was going to say I was going to keep flying until it's recharged, but... Right, now the drones, the OCAR drones, they are actually very powerful. They hit you very, very hard, but they also haven't got all that much damage or hull points. You can take them out quite quick, as long as you can lay shot on them. Now, throughout the area, you will find various resources, not too unlike the plasma cloud I entered just now, which was over there. You'll also find other resources like nanobots and scrap, and even weapon upgrades, such as pulse lasers and multi-cannons. And these we can access through our equipment slot here and make use of them. So we've got a pulse laser, we've got a Gatling gun. We can actually upgrade these when the option's available. You'll know, I'll get to that in a second. Upgrade. You can see down the bottom the resources required. That will put this up to a tier 1 or a tier 2 pulse laser. And we can keep upgrading, I think 2 or 3 times until we max it out. Each one becomes progressively more powerful. We can do the same with shield. Light missiles, we can do the same there. In fact, we can do the same with all of this stuff. Now, we have got an empty slot over here. As we use the perks to upgrade the ship, we can unlock an additional primary weapon slot. We can upgrade and unlock an additional secondary weapon slot. And then we then get an empty slot like this one here, which we can then click the Build New button and choose a new weapon or a new module to actually put in there. And we need to use the consumables to do that. Now, every time we upgrade in this way, this is just purely for this run, for this playthrough. But when we die, we lose all of this. We lose our ship, we lose all the upgrades, we lose everything we've collected. As I said early on, all that we get to keep is the credits. And also what that means is we also get to keep all the perks that we purchase. Perks are persistent. Credits will go with you back to the hangar, at least until you launch again. And everything else is transitory. Everything else you lose upon death. Now, there is a story, there's a backstory as to why this is a roguelike. It's actually a nice change. It is a roguelike game, but it's got a story explaining as to why and how you keep surviving, why and how you keep coming back again and again and again. Now, one of the asteroids, we're going to go flying through here because there is something in here that I want to collect. You can see me struggling to aim again. Now you can... There we go, just reiterating the point that I made early on. Now you can actually go to options, if we go to controls, you can change the controller sensitivity, and I've got this right down at 0. And I actually wish it would be a lot less sensitive even than it is. But you want to see me play if I try and get that up at 1. Absolute a nightmare, to be perfectly honest. Auto aim is very high because, again, I struggle when it comes to the controllers on here. We got not much when it comes to graphics options, but there's a nice colorblind mode here, something that I wish was included in a lot more games. So very considerate, very thoughtful to actually go ahead and put that in. Now we can play the game from a variety of perspectives. We can play from within the cockpit, first person here. We can have first person with the cockpit disabled, and then we've got my favorite, which is third person mode. And there's actually something else in there, isn't there? Now, these are usually tech containers or just regular containers. You do have 6 degrees of that freedom here. The controller. But again, I do struggle when it comes down to this. And I'm going to keep reiterating that point, primarily because I'm not a fan of the control-based setup on the Everspace. Despite the fact I am a console player, I'm a huge fan of consoles, as I mentioned early on. I would like to see it improved to some extent. Right, beam laser. Now, the beam laser is good. It's an energy weapon. It's good for taking down shields, but I'm not personally going to keep it. We are going to exchange that in. We can salvage stuff and get the resources from it. And we're now going to leave this zone and head towards the next zone. So the next zone is represented by the departure target here. Keep your ship targeted it, you'll accelerate up until you're ready to leave. This does use fuel. The fuel indicator's up there on the top right is all at the moment, 4 for 4. And then we're back to this screen again where we can choose our destination. And we've got no information yet as to what is present in these zones. You can see they're just an unknown risk. But as we get the map perk, we're about to see more information here. So we're going to jump into this zone right here. Okay. So, enemies. We've got outlaws and we've got Okar. Neither of these are friendly with each other. So if you come to an area, you'll find that they do actively and actively attack each other. So sometimes it's a good idea to just leave them alone if they're fighting each other. Let them do their thing. And we have got missiles. We can use missiles. Or 20 light missiles. And those are seeking missiles, which is nice. And again, this problem of the controls comes back because I keep overshooting the target with them. And you've got to remember that the target is constantly changing direction as well, which makes it very hard to use the control to try and predict where they're heading towards. Maybe not everyone will suffer from the same problem, but I do know it is a pretty common sentiment out there. I've seen many other people talk about the controls on consoles for Everspace. But I'm not going to knock the game overall because Everspace is a great game. It is a great combat shooter, and I've got to say it does look nice on the Switch. Of course, it doesn't look as good as the PC. You probably wouldn't expect it to look as good as the PC. And it would be unreasonable to expect it to, but considering it is a handheld device, considering it's not the most powerful of devices out there, it does do a very good job with how it handles things and how it represents the graphics. Right, so missiles are helping significantly here. Okay. Right, now over here we've got some fuel. This is very important, although looks like we've collected some. Again, up on the top right hand corner you can see the fuel indicator. 4 for 4. So it's completely full, but it will get consumed for each jump that we actually take. Now there's also some containers around here as well. So some of them will be regular containers, others will be tech containers. Regular containers tend to contain resources, whereas tech containers will contain modules, weapons. Let's see if we can actually get to these. It looks like they're actually inside the structure. So yeah, that's another point. You can actually fly inside some of these structures. Some of them are just small like this. Some of them are actually pretty large, and there are capital ships in the game. There are enemy capital ships that you can fight with. There are other ships that you can dock with to get upgrades and other resources. There's also some bases, medium-sized bases that you can fly inside of, all manner of things spread throughout the game to discover and to explore. Shield breaker missiles, I don't want those. We're going to salvage those. What else have we got here? Like the other parts are in another room, doesn't it? Right, now there is a timer on here. There's not a visual or visible timer, but there is a timer nonetheless. And if you spend too long in any one system, what will happen is you'll get an alert and that the Okar forces are inbound. And these will be Okar interceptors, Okar being one of the primary enemies in the game. And these are very powerful enemies that will destroy you very, very quickly. So it's not a good idea to hang around too long. And that's just telling me we've got some resources that we can use to craft with. Right, some nanobots there. These are good because they allow us to repair the hull and allow us to help towards repairing various modules. You saw I was in a pretty bad state when we first started out on the video. What else we got? Mineable fuel, a plasma field. I think time to keep going, isn't it? Right, so this will take us into Zone 3. Each sector has four zones, as we saw early on. I'm going to go to the top one there. The next one will have a jump gate, which will allow us to move towards the next sector. Right. So here we're talking about the friendly ships, or the large ships that are actually present. So GMB, these are friendly. These are friendly, but you can... They're going to tell us? Right, we can attack them, and we can also steal their cargo. But it will cause GMB to turn hostile towards us. And these are credit transports, so we might get quite a lot of credits out of destroying it. But it has got some defense with it. Just a GMB light fighter, but there's probably someone over the other GMB fighters over there as well who are engaged with the outlaw light fighter at the moment. So we're going to leave those alone because I don't really want to turn them bad, but we have got some other hostiles inbound from Okar drones. Wow, I'm a terrible, terrible shot when it comes to this. Anyone who's watched me play this on the PC will know that I struggle with the combat to start with. But I think you'll also be able to attest that I'm nowhere near this bad when it comes to using a mouse and a keyboard. Right, some fuel there, just topping up our fuel tank. But sometimes you will find that fuel that gets very low, that you might be getting extremely desperate for fuel. Because without fuel you can't safely jump to the next zone or next sector. Well, the next sector you're about to, because jump gates don't actually require fuel. In fact, let's get moving so you can see Sector 2. But this will take us to the 4th zone where the jump gate is. Like I was saying, if you do run out of fuel, you can still make a jump to another zone, but you do have a pretty significant chance of taking damage to your ship. So it's good to keep track of fuel. It's good to have fuel. But like I was saying as well, if you do get desperate for fuel, then you can actually steal some from GMB if they're nearby. Now, you can explore all of these areas. There's plenty of stuff to find around here. A lot of resources, a lot of nice structures to explore. That looks pretty interesting thing over there. But the video's getting on a little bit lengthy here. So before I call it an end, before I call it a day on this particular video, I just want you to see Sector 2 once again. And it will look different to it did previously because each playthrough, everything looks different. And let's hope it's not just dark space this time. Let's hope it's somewhere colourful. So fairly dark, but there are some very, very colourful areas for you to see. And unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to show you in this particular video, but interesting over there, isn't there? structure around that asteroid, and another base over there. That's where we're going to leave it today. Probably will play Everspace again on the Switch. I definitely will be playing it personally, but I might make it again another video on it. But I will definitely be playing it on the go, which is really what I wanted, a space combat shooter to take with me when I'm traveling and when I'm out and about. Overall, is it a good port? It's a very, very good port. Slight graphical downgrade, as you would expect. All in all, it's Everspace. So it's the Everspace you know and love, with some problems on the whole controller setup. And that's something that will probably be very subjective. Some of you may suffer from problems with that more than others. But there we have it. As always, thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys and girls next time.